Okay, guys, we're going to finish up the lesson for 7.1, Life is Cellular, by talking about prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So we have this question, how are prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells different? Well, prokaryotic cells do not separate their genetic material within a nucleus. That is the primary thing. In eukaryotic cells, the nucleus separates the genetic material from the rest of the cell. So if you're looking at pictures of cells, easy way to identify a eukaryote is if you see a clearly defined membrane-bound nucleus. So typical cells range from 5 to 50 micrometers in diameter. The smallest mycoplasma bacteria are only 0.2 micrometers across. So small, they're actually hard to see with even the best light microscopes. If you look in contrast to giant amoeba, chaos maybe 1,000 micrometers in diameter. That's actually 1 millimeter. They're still really, really small, but you can see them with the naked eye. Despite their differences, all cells contain the molecule that carries biological information, DNA, and all cells are surrounded by a thin, flexible barrier called a cell membrane. We'll talk about the cell membrane in more detail later in this chapter. So cells fall into two broad categories depending on whether they have these. So a nucleus is a large membrane-bound enclosed structure that contains the cell's genetic material in the form of DNA. Nucleus controls many of the cell's activities, and it does this by producing what is called RNA, and then that RNA produces what are called proteins. The proteins are what actually get stuff done in the cell. So when we look at eukaryotic cells, we see the plant and animal cell right here. These are general structures. Most of the cells in our bodies as animals don't actually look like this. They are highly specialized, and we'll talk about that later on. Now, we also see with this prokaryotic cell, it's much, much, much smaller, and this blue material right here, this is actually going to be the DNA that's just found free-floating within the cell. They are generally smaller, simpler than eukaryotic cells. Despite their simplicity, they can grow, reproduce, respond to their environment. They can do all the same things that all cells can do. And also, they can produce much, much quicker. We'll talk about this in chapter 10 when we talk about mitosis. So eukaryotic cells, they generally are larger, more complex. They contain dozens of structures called organelles that are highly specialized. Eukaryotes include plants, animals, fungi, and organisms commonly called protists. There's a lot of debate as to what a protist actually is, and if you look at current science textbooks, it looks very different from those of just 10 years ago. So if you have any questions, make sure to email me at mr.tucker.schs@gmail.com and come prepared for your assignment in class tomorrow.